Snow danced past the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 52nd floor Lakeshore Drive penthouse in Chicago. The Christmas party was flawless. Ice sculptures shaped like reindeer, a string quartet playing Silent Night in jazz tempo. If this story touched your heart, friends, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more touching stories. Thank you for being here. Champagne that cost more per bottle than most people made in a week. Everyone who mattered in this city was here, laughing too loud, watching each other too closely. In the middle of it all stood Amani Hartley, 6 months pregnant, one hand cradling her belly, the other wrapped so tightly around a glass of sparkling water that her knuckles went white. She wore emerald silk that made her skin glow, but her eyes were tired of pretending, tired of smiling for cameras, tired of being Malcolm Hartley's perfect, tragic accessory. She slipped through the glass doors onto the terrace. The wind hit her like freedom. The city sparkled 30 stories below, tiny yellow cabs crawling like ants. For one blessed minute, the noise faded, and she could breathe. Then came the heavy, angry footsteps she knew too well. "Amani," Malcolm's voice sliced through the cold. "What the hell are you doing out here? People are asking where my wife disappeared to." "I just needed air." He stepped closer, whiskey on his breath, eyes glassy and dangerous. "You always need air when you're supposed to be playing the grateful little wife. Do you know how this looks?" "I'm pregnant, Malcolm. My back hurts. My feet are swollen. I'm doing my best." "Your best?" He laughed, sharp and ugly. "Your best is embarrassing me in front of the people who actually matter." She backed up until the railing pressed cold against her spine. Snowflakes melted on her eyelashes. "Malcolm, please, you've had too much to drink." "Don't tell me what I've had." He grabbed her wrist hard enough to bruise. "Get back inside and smile or what?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. His face changed. Something dark and final flashed across it. In one violent shove, he pushed her backwards over the railing. Amani's scream tore through the night as the world flipped upside down. She clawed at air, at snow, at nothing. The golden lights of the party blurred into streaks. 30 stories of nothing waited below. But fate had a different plan. Instead of concrete, her body crashed onto the hood of a matte black Maybach parked directly beneath the terrace. Metal buckled, glass shattered, and everything went black. Up on the terrace, Malcolm stared down, chest heaving, realizing what he'd just done. Inside the penthouse, the music died mid-note. Someone screamed, and the night that was supposed to crown Malcolm Hartley's empire became the night it all began to burn. But what nobody knew yet, not Malcolm, not the gasping guests, not even Amani herself, was whose car had just saved her life, and that man was already racing through the snow to get to her. Chaos exploded inside the penthouse the instant the scream cut through the jazz. A champagne flute slipped from a woman's hand and shattered like gunfire on the marble. The string quartet froze, bows hovering midair. Every head turned toward the open terrace doors where snow now blew in like a warning. "She fell!" someone shrieked. Guests surged forward, phones already up, recording, flashing, zooming. A dozen people crowded the railing, peering down into the darkness 30 stories below. "Oh my God, she's not on the ground. She hit a car. Look, there's movement." Down on the street, Amani lay crumpled across the hood of the Maybach, one arm dangling, blood trickling from her temple onto black paint.
The windshield had spider-webbed beneath her weight, but the thick luxury steel had absorbed most of the impact. Sirens were already wailing in the distance. Someone had dialed 911 the second they saw her fall. Upstairs, Malcolm stumbled back inside, snow on his shoulders, face drained of color. He forced his features into something that was supposed to look like grief. "It was an accident," he announced too loud. "Amani slipped. The terrace was icy. She's been so emotional lately. The pregnancy..." A few guests nodded automatically, wanting to believe the clean version. Others weren't so sure. A young woman near the doors whispered to her friend, "I saw them arguing. He grabbed her arm, hard." Malcolm heard it. His eyes snapped at her. But before he could speak, another voice, smooth, fake sympathetic, rose above the murmurs. "He's in shock," said Talia Brennan, stepping forward in a silver gown that caught every light. She placed a manicured hand on Malcolm's arm like she belonged there. Inside, she was smiling. Malcolm shrugged her off, too roughly. "Everyone stay calm," he barked. "Police will be here soon. It was an accident. That's all anyone needs to say." He pulled his head of security aside near the Christmas tree. "Get to the control room. Hiss! Delete every second of terrace and hallway footage. Now." "Sir, the police." "Do it before they get here." The guard hesitated, then disappeared. Talia watched Malcolm unravel and felt a delicious thrill. If Amani was really gone, the path was finally clear. She had waited years for this night. But then a man near the railing shouted, "She's moving! I saw her hand twitch!" Another voice, "The paramedics are down there! She's alive!" A collective gasp rippled through the room. Phones lit up again, live streaming, texting, calling. The energy flipped from horror to electric hope, and then to something darker. Malcolm went rigid. Alive. The word hit him like a second fall. Talia's perfect mask slipped for half a second. Her fingers tightened around her clutch. If Amani was alive, she could talk. And if she talked... Malcolm's eyes found Talia across the room. For the first time that night, real fear passed between them. Because 30 floors below, inside the circle of red and blue lights, Amani's eyes fluttered open. The first thing she rasped to the paramedic leaning over her was a single name. "Quentin! Get Quentin!" The ex-fiancé everyone thought she'd left behind for good was already speeding across the city, and when he finds out who put her in that ambulance, Christmas is about to get very, very ugly.
The penthouse had become a courtroom with no judge. Police lights painted the walls red, blue, while officers in heavy winter coats took names and separated witnesses into corners. The Christmas tree still twinkled like nothing had happened, but every ornament now looked like evidence. Malcolm stood near the grand piano, repeating the same sentence over and over, as if volume could make it true. "She slipped. The terrace was covered in snow. She's been unstable for months. Ask anyone." A few investors nodded politely. Most didn't. The young woman who had seen the argument was openly crying now, repeating to an officer, "He grabbed her. She begged him to stop. Then she just went over." Talia glided from group to group, voice soft, eyes shining with crocodile tears. "Poor Malcolm. He tried so hard to protect her reputation. Amani had been talking about feeling dizzy, about not trusting heights anymore. He feels so guilty." She let the sentence hang, let people fill in the blanks she wanted. A reporter in the corner was already typing. Sources close to the couple say Mrs. Hartley suffered severe prenatal anxiety. Talia made sure her face was in every photograph next to Malcolm's, future Mrs. Hartley material. Then the elevator chimed. The room went dead quiet. Quentin Rhodes stepped out like winter itself had walked in wearing a black cashmere coat. Snow crystals clung to his shoulders and lashes. He didn't look left or right. He looked straight at the lead detective. "Detective Ruiz?" "Quentin Rhodes. Amani Hartley asked for me. Where is she?"
Malcolm's voice cracked across the room. "This is a private residence. You have no business." Quentin finally turned. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I have every business," he said. Calm, lethal. "She fell 30 stories onto my car. She's in my ambulance. And she just told 3 paramedics that her husband pushed her." A collective inhale sucked every bit of air from the penthouse. Talia's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and exploded on the marble. Malcolm took one involuntary step back, bumping into the piano. A wrong note clanged out, ugly and loud. Detective Ruiz raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Vance, the victim regained consciousness en route. Her first words were, and I quote, 'Malcolm pushed me. Tell Quentin I'm sorry I didn't leave sooner.' Care to explain that?" Malcolm opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Quentin didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "She also said you've been—"
The penthouse had become a courtroom with no judge. Police lights painted the walls red, blue, while officers in heavy winter coats took names and separated witnesses into corners. The Christmas tree still twinkled like nothing had happened, but every ornament now looked like evidence. Malcolm stood near the grand piano, repeating the same sentence over and over, as if volume could make it true. He slipped. The terrace was covered in snow. "She's been unstable for months. Ask anyone." A few investors nodded politely. Most didn't. The young woman who had seen the argument was openly crying now, repeating to an officer. "He grabbed her. She begged him to stop. Then she just went over." Talia glided from group to group, voice soft, eyes shining with crocodile tears. Poor Malcolm. He tried so hard to protect her reputation. Amani had been talking about feeling dizzy, about not trusting heights anymore. He feels so guilty. She let the sentence hang, let people fill in the blanks she wanted. A reporter in the corner was already typing. Sources close to the couple say Mrs. Hartley suffered severe prenatal anxiety. Talia made sure her face was in every photograph next to Malcolm's. Future Mrs. Hartley material. Then, the elevator chimed. The room went dead quiet. Quentin Rhodes stepped out like winter itself had walked in wearing a black cashmere coat. Snow crystals clung to his shoulders and lashes. He didn't look left or right. He looked straight at the lead detective. "Detective Ruiz? Quentin Rhodes. Amani Hartley asked for me. Where is she?" Malcolm's voice cracked across the room. "This is a private residence. You have no business." Quentin finally turned. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I have every business," he said, calm, lethal. "She fell 30 stories onto my car. She's in my ambulance, and she just told 3 paramedics that her husband pushed her." A collective inhale sucked every bit of air from the penthouse. Talia's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and exploded on the marble. Malcolm took one involuntary step back, bumping into the piano. A wrong note clanged out ugly and loud. Detective Ruiz raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Vance, the victim regained consciousness en route. Her first words were, and I quote, 'Malcolm pushed me. Tell Quentin I'm sorry I didn't leave sooner.' Care to explain that?" Malcolm opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Quentin didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "She also said you've been hitting her for months, that tonight you told her the baby was ruining your image, that you wanted it gone, both of them." The young woman who saw the argument started sobbing louder. "That's exactly what I heard." Another guest, an older woman in pearls, stepped forward. "I saw him grab his wrist. There were bruises shaped like fingerprints last week at the charity gala. I thought it was jewelry at first." Malcolm found his voice, shrill now. "They're lying, all of them. They want my money, my deals." Quentin took 3 slow steps closer. "The building's off-site backup just finished uploading to the cloud, Malcolm. Your security guy couldn't delete everything. It's all ready with Chicago PD." Malcolm's knees almost buckled. Detective Ruiz pulled out cuffs. "Malcolm Hartley, you're under arrest for attempted murder." The room erupted. Phones up, cameras flashing. Talia tried to melt into the wallpaper. And Quentin never took his eyes off Malcolm.
But the night isn't over, because while Malcolm is being dragged away in handcuffs, Amani is waking up in the hospital, and she just remembered one terrifying detail that changes everything. Mercy General Hospital, 3:17 a.m. The emergency room smelled of antiseptic, burnt coffee, and fear. Amani lay under heated blankets, monitors beeping a steady lullaby around her bruised body. Every breath hurt, but the ultrasound tech had just whispered the words she needed more than morphine. "Your son is perfect. Strong heartbeat. He's a fighter, just like his mama." Amani closed her eyes and let the tears slip sideways into her hair. Alive. Both of them. Alive. Quentin sat in the plastic chair beside her bed, coat still on, snow long melted into damp patches on the shoulders. He hadn't moved for 4 hours. When the nurse tried to make him leave, he simply said, "Try me," and she decided the paperwork could wait. Amani's voice was raw, barely above a whisper. "There's something I never told anyone, not even you." Quentin leaned closer, taking her cold hand in both of his. "Tell me now." She swallowed. "The baby? He's not Malcolm's." The monitors kept beeping. The snow kept falling outside the window. Quentin didn't flinch, didn't pull away. He just waited. "It happened the night of the tech conference in Miami, 8 months ago. You and we ran into each other at the rooftop bar. One drink turned into 4. We said it was closure. We said it was goodbye. But we woke up in your suite and I found out 3 weeks later. Malcolm and I hadn't slept in the same bed in months. I knew the second the test was positive." Quentin's jaw flexed, but his grip on her hand stayed gentle. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because 2 days later Malcolm proposed publicly, on the yacht with my dad watching. He promised to save Dad's company if I said yes. Dad was drowning in debt. I thought I could protect everyone. I thought I could bury it. I was going to leave Malcolm after the baby was born and tell you then." She finally looked at him. "I'm so sorry." Quentin exhaled, long and slow, like he'd been holding that breath for 8 months. Then he did the last thing she expected. He smiled, small, fierce, and full of wonder. "Amani, I don't need a blood test to know he's mine. I felt it the first time you let me touch your belly at that charity dinner, and he kicked my hand like he recognized me." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "Malcolm found the first ultrasound picture. It had the conception date circled. That's why tonight happened. He knew. He's been waiting for the perfect moment to make it look like an accident." Quentin's smile vanished, replaced by something dark and deadly. "He won't get another moment ever." The door opened. Detective Ruiz stepped in, face grim. "Mrs. Hartley, we need you to look at something." She held up a tablet. On the screen, frozen security footage, time-stamped, Malcolm's hand on her chest, the violent shove, her body disappearing over the railing. Amani started shaking. Quentin wrapped an arm around her shoulders like a shield. "He's never touching her again," he told the detective. Detective Ruiz nodded. "But Mrs. Hartley, there's one more thing." She turned the tablet around again. This time it was a still from the hallway camera. Minutes after the fall, Talia, alone, slipping a flash drive out of the security panel, smiling straight into the lens like she knew no one would ever see it. Talia thought she erased the only copy, but tomorrow morning, that flash drive is going to land in the wrong hands, and when Amani finds out what's really on it, someone is going to wish they'd fallen off that balcony instead of her.
6:47 a.m. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft whoosh of the fetal monitor. Amani slept at last, face turned toward the window, where sunrise painted Chicago pink and gold. Quentin hadn't closed his eyes once. He sat forward in the chair, elbows on knees, staring at the small black flash drive resting on the blanket like a sleeping scorpion. Detective Ruiz had handed it to him 20 minutes ago. "Recovered from Talia Brennan's clutch when we brought her in for questioning," she'd said. Your building's night tech found an empty slot in the security rack. This was the missing piece. Whatever's on it, she wanted it gone bad enough to risk a felony. Quentin turned the drive over in his fingers once more, then plugged it into the secure laptop the hospital had provided. One file. File name, insurance.mp4. Date modified, tonight, 11:58 p.m., right after Amani fell. He pressed play. The screen filled with grainy but unmistakable hallway footage, 30 minutes before the party started. Talia, in the same silver dress she wore when she played the grieving friend, stood with Malcolm outside the master bedroom. Their voices were low, but the hidden camera caught every word. Talia said, "She knows about us. She found the hotel receipts." Malcolm said, "She's pregnant. She won't leave. Not yet." Talia smiling like a cat. "Then we help her leave. Permanently. Tonight. Everyone will blame the hormones, the stress, the snow, tragic accident, and 6 months from now, you put a new ring on my finger and nobody remembers her name." Malcolm hesitated. "If anything goes wrong..." Talia stepped closer, pressed her body against his. "Nothing goes wrong if we stick to the plan. You push, I cry, we delete the footage, we grieve publicly. And by spring, we're the city's new power couple. The baby? Bonus tragedy. The city will eat it up." She kissed him hard. He kissed him back like a man who'd already decided. The video kept rolling. Talia pulling a second flash drive from her bra, sliding it into the security panel, copying the terrace feed, just in case. Laughing softly. "Insurance," she whispered to the empty hallway. "If you ever try to leave me out of this, Malcolm, I own you." Quentin's knuckles went white around the laptop. The clip ended. He sat motionless for a full minute, the kind of silence that comes right before a storm breaks. Then he carefully closed the laptop, slipped the drive into his pocket, and leaned over the bed. "Amani," he said softly. Her eyes fluttered open. "What is it?" "I need you to be brave one more time." He brushed hair from her forehead. "Talia didn't just watch him push you. She planned it, every step. She recorded herself bragging about it." Amani's breath hitched. The monitor beeped faster. "She wanted me dead so she could have him? She wanted my son dead?" Quentin nodded once. Amani stared at the ceiling, tears sliding into her ears. Then something shifted in her face. Fear burned away into cold, clear fury. "Play it for the police," she said. "Play it for the news. Play it for every person who ever called me unstable. I want her to feel what falling feels like." Quentin kissed her knuckles. Already done. He stood, coat swirling like a dark wing. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To make sure Talia never smiles for another camera as long as she lives." By noon today, that video is going to be on every screen in America, and when Talia walks into the police station thinking she's just a witness, the look on her face when they hit play, oh honey, you're gonna need popcorn and tissues. 11:03 a.m. Chicago woke up to a nuclear winter of gossip. At exactly 10:57 a.m., every major news outlet, every gossip blog, every morning show received the same anonymous email. Subject line, "The real reason Amani fell." Attachment, insurance.mp4. By 11 o'clock, the video was everywhere. Morning anchors choked on their coffee, live streams crashed from traffic. X, broke its own record for fastest trending hashtag. Hashtag balcony murder plot. In a downtown interrogation room, Talia Brennan sat in a dove gray suit, legs crossed, hair perfect, sipping water like she was at brunch. She had arrived voluntarily, ready to cry pretty tears and play the shocked best friend. Detective Ruiz entered with a tablet and 2 uniformed officers. "Miss Brennan, we have a new piece of evidence." Talia offered a sad little smile.
Anything I can do to help poor Amani?" Ruiz pressed play. Talia's own voice filled the concrete room. "You push, I cry, we delete the footage, and by spring, we're the city's new power couple. The baby? Bonus tragedy. The city will eat it up." The color drained from Talia's face so fast it looked like someone pulled a plug. Her water glass slipped, shattered on the floor. That's taken out of context," she stammered. Ruiz turned the tablet so Talia could see the live feed on the screen. The video already had 42 million views and climbing. The caption underneath read, "Mistress confesses to planning pregnant wife's murder. Full footage." Talia lunged for the tablet. An officer caught her wrist. Outside the station, reporters screamed her name like wolves. Inside, her lawyer was still stuck in traffic, watching the same clip on his phone, swearing so loud his Uber driver almost crashed. Across town, in the hospital, Amani sat propped up against pillows, phone in hand. The video was on mute, but she didn't need sound. She watched Talia's lips form the words "bonus tragedy" and felt something inside her chest finally snap loose. Years of shame, of gaslighting, of being called crazy. Quentin stood at the foot of the bed, arms folded, watching the numbers climb. Amani looked up at him. "I want to go live, right now." "Amani, you don't have to." "I need to." Her voice was steady for the first time in months. The world just heard her plan my murder. Now they need to hear from the woman who survived it. Quentin didn't argue. He made one call. 15 minutes later, a local morning show patched in remotely. The anchor's face appeared on the phone screen, pale and shaken. "Mrs. Hartley, the nation is watching. Whenever you're ready." Amani looked straight into the camera. Bruises on her cheek, hospital gown, monitors beeping behind her, and the fiercest eyes Chicago had ever seen. "My name is Amani Hartley. Last night, my husband threw me off a 30-story balcony because I was pregnant with another man's child. His mistress filmed herself celebrating the idea of my death. I fell 30 stories. I broke bones. I bled. I almost lost my son. But I'm here, and I'm done being silent." She lifted the ultrasound photo the nurses had printed that morning. "This is my son. He has a heartbeat because a car broke my fall. He has a future because I'm still breathing, and he will never, ever know the people who tried to erase us." The anchor was openly crying. Amani finished with a whisper that shattered a million hearts. "Merry Christmas, Talia." She ended the call. Within 30 seconds, hashtag Amani Strong replaced every other trending topic. And in that gray interrogation room downtown, Talia Brennan put her perfect head down on the metal table and for the first time in her life knew exactly how it felt to fall with no one to catch her. But the story isn't over. Because while Talia is learning what concrete tastes like, Malcolm just got a visitor in lockup. And what that visitor whispered through the glass is going to make him wish he jumped after Amani.
Cook County Jail, 4:42 p.m. Malcolm Hartley sat on the edge of a metal bench in an orange jumpsuit that cost less than the socks he wore last night. The fluorescent lights buzzed like insects. Every man in the holding tank kept their distance. Word had already spread that the guy in 9B tried to murder his pregnant wife on camera. A guard appeared. "Hartley, you've got a visitor." Malcolm stood, wrists cuffed in front, shuffling past the stairs. He expected his lawyer, maybe a PR crisis team. Instead, when the partition glass lifted, Quentin Rhodes was on the other side. No coat this time, just a black hoodie and the coldest stare Malcolm had ever seen. Malcolm snatched the phone. "You have 5 minutes to gloat, then get the hell out." Quentin didn't sit. He leaned in until his forehead almost touched the glass. "I'm not here to gloat," he said, voice low enough the guard couldn't hear. "I'm here to deliver a message from the woman you threw away like trash." Malcolm rolled his eyes. "Tell her I said—"
Quentin cut him off. "She doesn't want your words. She wants you to hear hers." He pressed play on his phone and held it to the receiver. Amani's voice, calm and razor-sharp, filled the line. "Malcolm, by the time you hear this, every investor you ever courted has pulled out. Your board voted emergency removal an hour ago. Your offshore accounts are frozen pending federal review. Your name is already off the building. And the penthouse? Child Services just condemned it for forensic evidence. You don't have a home to go back to, even if a judge ever lets you out." Malcolm's face went gray. Amani continued, softer now, almost kind. "I kept one thing, though. The nursery you never let me finish. I'm having it painted today, soft blue, with the name you'll never get to say. You don't deserve to know it, but I want it to haunt you every night you're in here." A pause. "His name is Quentin Malik Rhodes Hartley, and he already has his father's eyes." The line went dead. Malcolm stared at the black screen like it had bitten him. The cuffs rattled against the counter as his hands started shaking. Quentin took the phone back. "You wanted the baby gone because he was proof she never belonged to you. Now the whole world knows he's mine, and every day you rot in here, he gets to grow up calling me Dad." Malcolm lunged at the glass, screaming, "I'll kill you, both of you!" Guards swarmed, slamming him face first onto the counter. Quentin never flinched. As they dragged Malcolm away, still roaring empty threats, Quentin spoke just loud enough for him to hear over the chaos. "You already tried to kill us once. You failed. Next time someone puts hands on my family, they won't walk away breathing." He hung up the receiver, turned, and left without looking back. In the hallway outside, Amani waited in a wheelchair, wrapped in blankets, flanked by 2 officers and a very excited nurse holding discharge papers. Quentin crouched in front of her. "It's done," he said. She searched his face. Did he suffer? Like falling 30 stories and realizing the ground is forever. Amani closed her eyes, exhaled 8 months of terror, and smiled for the first time in longer than she could remember. "Let's go home," she whispered. But home isn't the penthouse anymore. Tonight, Amani walks into a house Malcolm never knew existed, and tomorrow morning the final piece of his empire gets auctioned off to the highest bidder, live on television. Guess who's holding the gavel? 9:00 a.m. the next day. The grand ballroom of the Drake Hotel had never looked so merciless. Crystal chandeliers glittered above rows of velvet chairs filled with hedge fund wolves, gossip columnists, and half the guests from the Christmas party who now clutched numbered paddles like weapons. A giant screen behind the auctioneer showed Lot 1, the entire contents of the Lakeshore Drive penthouse, sold in one bulk lot to satisfy immediate creditor claims. In a small holding room at Cook County Jail, Malcolm sat handcuffed to a steel table, forced to watch the live feed on a tablet. The guard had turned the volume up loud enough for the whole block to hear. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer boomed. "We begin with the personal residence of Mr. Malcolm Hartley, valued last year at $42 million. Opening bid, $5 million. Malcolm's jaw dropped. "5? That's..." A paddle shot up. $5 million. Another. 6. 7. In 30 seconds, it was at 12. Malcolm started sweating through the jumpsuit. The camera panned across the penthouse. On the screen, the marble floors where champagne had shattered the night Amani fell, the balcony where he'd pushed her, the Christmas tree still glittering like a mocking witness. Lot 2, Malcolm's collection of vintage watches. Lot 3, his fleet of 4 cars, including the Maybach with the dented hood that saved Amani's life. Every time the gavel fell, another piece of him disappeared. At the back of the ballroom, Quentin stood with one arm protectively around Amani. She was out of the hospital, dressed in soft cream cashmere, belly proudly rounded under a blanket. Cameras tried to swarm them. Private security kept them 10 feet back. The auctioneer lifted a final item, a small velvet box. And now, the engagement ring Mr. Hartley placed on Mrs. Hartley's finger 8 months ago. 10-carat, flawless diamond. Starting bid, $1 million. Amani leaned into the microphone Quentin held for her. Actually, she said, voice clear and sweet across the room, I'd like to open the bidding myself. $1. The room roared with laughter and applause. Quentin raised his paddle. $1. Sold, the auctioneer shouted, banging the gavel so hard it nearly cracked. To Mr. Quentin Rhodes for $1. Malcolm screamed at the tablet until the guard muted it. Amani turned the ring once in her fingers, then handed it to Quentin. He slipped it on a thin gold chain and fastened it around her neck, right over her heart. Proof, he whispered, that everything he gave you was never worth more than the dirt he tried to bury you in. The final lot came up, the penthouse itself. The bidding soared past $30 million in under a minute. Quentin raised his paddle one last time. $45 million. Silence. No one dared counter. The gavel slammed. Sold! Malcolm dropped the tablet. It clattered to the floor. Screen cracked. Just like his life. In the ballroom, the crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. Amani turned to Quentin, eyes shining. "What are you going to do with it?" she asked. He smiled, slow and lethal. "I'm going to tear it down to the studs. Build a women's shelter. Name it after you." But the story still has one final twist, because tonight, on Christmas Eve, Amani is going back to the only home she ever truly wanted, and the man waiting there with their son's very first Christmas gift is about to ask her one question that will close this nightmare forever.
Christmas Eve, 8:47 p.m. Quentin's house on the Gold Coast wasn't a penthouse, it was a home. Brick and ivy, warm lights in every window, a massive evergreen glowing in the front hall. The scent of pine, cinnamon, and something baking drifted through the air the second Amani stepped inside. She paused on the threshold, one hand on her belly, the other clutching the little velvet box that now held the $1 ring on a chain. Snowflakes melted on her lashes. Quentin closed the door behind them, shutting out the city, the cameras, the chaos. For the first time in years, the world was quiet. He helped her out of her coat, then simply looked at her like he still couldn't believe she was real. "I have one more thing to show you," he said softly. He led her past the towering Christmas tree, real, not curated, into a room she'd never seen on any of her old visits. The door was painted the exact soft blue from her hospital dreams. Inside, a finished nursery, rocking chair by the window, tiny knit stockings hanging from a miniature mantel, a mobile of silver stars spinning slowly above a crib carved from dark walnut. On the wall, in delicate gold script, Quentin Malik Rhodes Hartley, our miracle, our home, our always. Amani's breath caught. She walked forward like she was dreaming, fingers brushing the blanket folded neatly in the crib, hands stitched, tiny moons and constellations. "I started it the day you left me," Quentin admitted, voice rough. "Finished it the day you came back." She turned to him, tears already falling. "You kept hope alive for 8 months?" "I never stopped hoping for one more Christmas with you." He dropped to one knee right there, between the rocking horse and the stack of children's books he'd clearly been reading to her belly every night she was gone. From his pocket he pulled a small box, midnight blue velvet this time. Inside, a ring. Not 10 carats, not flashy. A single rose-cut diamond surrounded by tiny star-set stones that looked like the night sky over Lake Michigan. "Quentin, Amani Hartley," he said, voice shaking just enough to prove how much this moment meant. "I loved you when we were broke college kids stealing fries off of each other's plates. I loved you when the world said you belonged to someone else. I loved you through every second I thought I'd lost you. Marry me,
Not for deals or cameras or headlines. Marry me because our son deserves to grow up watching his parents choose each other every single day. Say yes, and I swear the rest of our lives starts right now." Amani didn't even let him finish. "Yes!" she laughed through happy, messy tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, perfect fit, stood and kissed her like the very first time, slow, reverent, home. Somewhere in the house, soft Christmas music began to play. Snow fell harder outside the nursery window, blanketing the city clean. Amani rested her forehead against his. "I used to think surviving was the miracle," she whispered. "Turns out the miracle was walking through fire and finding you still standing on the other side, arms open." Quentin wrapped her up gently, palms spread over their son, and for the first time in forever, the world felt safe. They stayed like that until the clock struck midnight. Merry Christmas, indeed.